Hello, I'm Marissa. It's been one whole month of self-employment, full-time, working on fiber arts things. I was so busy last week, so I didn't get a chance to record a vlog, but I do have good news that the update to the Arissa Makes Row Counter app is ready for testing. I am looking for some testers, so if you're interested in testing and have an Apple Watch, you can email me at support@arissamakes.com. I'll also put that information in the description. I'm really curious what people think about it. Burton had to do a bunch of work with this update, and I'm so grateful that he was able to help with it. It was too big of a task to tackle for me, who was less experienced as a developer. And we had to do a bunch of restructuring of the app so that we can prep the app for adding support later on to other platforms like iPhone and iPad support. And I'm really hoping that we can get that adding more platform support sometime in the next 6 months. So fingers crossed on that. This update includes multiple row counter support and a save history with a timestamp of every time you clicked the button. So I didn't work on the coding for the app, but I did do a bunch of work with the Arissa Makes website. That was pushed live yesterday, and I'm really, really excited with how everything looks. I mentioned in previous videos that I had to move the website framework from Nux to Astro and ended up redesigning my website. I worked with my friend Kareen from Kareening Support. She was so helpful with getting branding design for Arissa Makes, like the font logo, fonts to choose from, and some color schemes. It's already made such a huge impact for me of not having to think so much about every time I post and just selecting the set of colors that match with my brand. I also had just so much fun from designing the Figma designs of the new layout to then moving to Astro. I love the documentation for Astro. I feel like, especially as someone who is new to web dev, it felt really easy to follow. Learning to code for me was really difficult early on, and I'm really proud of where I am at now with it, to the point where I can work on my website and actually be really excited to the point where I have to like force myself to step away from it. I think with coding, I was really in my head. I felt like because it's such a male dominant job and I don't see a lot of people that look like me coding, that I felt like I just didn't have the ability to learn how to code, which is, I don't really believe that. I just think there was just like all these negative thoughts of anytime I would get stuck with the coding, that was some evidence of me being unable to learn. And of course, that's not true. I was putting myself in this vicious cycle, self fulfilling prophecy of, because I was struggling, it was evidence that I couldn't learn. And then I started feeling frustrated by the fact that I couldn't do it. And then that would put me into a headspace where I couldn't retain any new information. So I had to really work hard to get through the emotional parts of learning something new, especially with coding. I think the biggest turning point for me of learning to code was when I was in the Living Bravely cohort with my coach, Nicole Cruz. She had brought in a somatic coach. We had these worksheets that we had to write down of just like knowing what fight or flight or freeze looks like for me, knowing what support I would need when I'm in those moments. And it's different every time. So just like having all these different tools for myself to like pick from. Like sometimes, if I'm in fight or flight, maybe that's giving me a lot more energy that I need to let out. And so I need to do something physical like going for a run or walking, dancing. Or if I'm freezing, maybe that's something that needs to get me to calm down more, and that's meditating, drawing. We also had to do a worksheet where we put different actions in the comfort zone versus the growth zone versus the danger zone. I think growth would be something that's like uncomfortable, but is something that you can handle and push through that discomfort, versus danger zone. You could still handle the discomfort, but it's a lot of energy out of you that you would need a lot more space from that each time you do it. One example I had for that danger zone is it was coding. To this day, it's probably still like a big like public speaking event. I probably wouldn't do a public speaking event every month. Or I would say it's like a once a year thing where like my nervous system probably can't handle that more than a year. Versus like the growth zone is something that like I'd say right now coding is in my growth zone, and the weaving is in my growth zone, where it brings me a little bit of discomfort and I'll get stuck and frustrated. My nervous system is at a stable state where I can still do those things and learn and become used to that new thing that I'm doing. Anyway, somatic coaching is amazing and I highly recommend it. What else? I've been drawing a lot more and had helped out with a friend's booth this past weekend. She has a lot of cool merch and she has like a pretty big following and stuff, and so it's just really exciting to see people be excited of her stuff, and it got me inspired to brainstorm on some different like merch ideas that I've been thinking about for a while. I've been wanting to do more Southeast Asian inspired like stitch markers and things, and so I was like, why not draw some fruit? I have mangosteen stitch markers, a durian stitch marker, making it more like rounded and cute. I don't know, maybe having a face on it. Some rose apple. I thought this one was cute. Kind of looks like a little like ghost. I drew a rambutan, but I don't know if that can be anything really. I also have some pretty ugly drawings of try to do like little hanks of yarn and like what if I drew a face, but it kind of just either looks like poop or like worms. But because I had opened up my sketchbook and I've had this sketchbook since college, I got to see some old sketches of my pillows. I used to make these Avatar Last Airbender pillows. Yeah, I made this top one a while ago. I love how the Appa one looks, and I'd love to make one of these days. So it was really cool to see 20-year-old me was drawing merch ideas, and I sold 2 pillows on Etsy. Oh, I also was gonna say that it's almost July. Tomorrow is July 1st, and I told myself that I was gonna take a break, and I have decided that I will not, because I still feel mentally not ready to take a break. I'm too excited with everything that's going on. So I don't think that like me continuing to work on this stuff is gonna burn me out. I'm actually like really excited about everything. So I'm still gonna go with that flow and continue to listen to myself, and yeah, continue working and seeing where that takes me. And then I'll check in with myself maybe in the next month to see if I'll need a break then. But yeah, I finished hemming all the bridesmaid dresses. I learned a lot of things and decided to go finally buy some more tools. Bought some more bobbins because the bobbins I have, I didn't realize that bobbins were specific to sewing machines, and that the ones I have were, I got this present a long time ago, like a sewing kit of like all these threads, and it had these bobbins in there too, but has never fit in either of my sewing machines. And read online as I was like looking for more bobbins at the store that you have to read the manual to make sure that you're buying the bobbin that is for your sewing machine. I also got sewing clips as an alternative to all the pins that I have, and I felt like that was really helpful for me to use when I'm hemming, because I feel like pinning doesn't always keep the fabric together, even when I would iron the fabric to match like whatever hem I'm doing. I did learn a new hem technique from Notch Sewing on hemming chiffon. Basically, it involves folding one layer, sewing it, cutting that excess fabric, and then folding that again, and then sewing that again. So that the outside part, you're only seeing one stitch from that second fold, but then if you look at the inside, you'll see two stitches from both the first fold and the second fold. And that was really helpful in making sure that the fabric doesn't move around so much. And I think I struggle a lot with hemming fabric that's very slippery. This technique was good. I also messed up and realized that I was overconfident. I was thinking to myself, like, I've been doing this for 15 years and I've been hemming a bunch, especially because I dance hula. I have all these dresses I have to hem. Ended up messing up with cutting the hem for one of the bridesmaids' outfits. Luckily, I caught myself, and so there was just 4 inches of a hole that I had to sew up. So I ended up doing that. Luckily, it was like at the bottom and stuff, but I did learn how to fix a hole from Professor Pincushion. I think it was like a whip stitch, and then I got some glue or whatever that helps with like preventing it from fraying. Yeah, I was stressing out with Burton about this, and he had some wise things to say, and to treat sewing as if I'm like a pilot and have a checklist, and that no matter how experienced you are, you still have to always double check. And yes, I will be doing that from now on. The other thing I learned when I was hemming is that I use mainly a walking foot for most of my projects, but I didn't realize that the walking foot only goes forward, so they don't recommend doing back stitches with it. I saw some YouTubers had said that it's not a big deal if you backstitch with the walking foot. It just it could break it, but I had no idea, and I've always used the walking foot and did back stitches with it. Gosh, yeah, it's been one whole month. I'm like been trying to learn so much about video making and all that, and watching a lot of YouTube videos. Like, I think the algorithm keeps showing me like, here's how to get more followers and subscribers and blah blah, and most of it don't really like vibe with me. But yeah, I don't know how to make these videos more interesting, I guess. Not interesting, coherent, I don't know, like clear topic and direction of things. I had a friend recommend me Smeeny in the Wild YouTube videos. She had started out making knitting hats and selling them, and I think she now does like a lot of coaching for like those that are in the creative business. Her videos have been really nice and resonating a lot with me, of like making sure that you're constantly thinking about whether XYZ that you're doing with your business is matching your values. And me and Burton have actually been talking about what the company values are from like day one, and we haven't really touched it since, but luckily I had the opportunity to work on company values while I was at Panic and DEI related things. Yeah, so I was able to get those learnings from when we built the company values at Panic, to then figure out what that looks like for us here, splitting up to like what the value is, and then what individual behaviors look like, what behaviors look like for me to show those values. What does it look like for the culturally of the company, and then what it looks like for like the institutional. And so I had wrote things like, basically, some of these values include just centering voices of most underrepresented folks, so like BIPOC, LGBTQ, thinking about that and what that looks like, I guess, for customers and community, and like where we decide to partner with, and what tools we decide to use, and how that impacts those communities. And relating to our values and like what tools we use, we have started working on the AI policy. And I've been talking about coding, but haven't talked about generative AI at all. And I feel like nowadays, when you're talking about coding, it's always tied with like, oh, like AI. And for me, it's really fatiguing to like hear that everywhere, and I kind of just like don't want to talk about it. And I imagine maybe other people feel that way too. And so we've started to work on an AI policy. off of our values and the tools we use and how that impacts, underrepresented communities like Black communities and the environment and how those big data centers of large language models are impacting, the water and the environment. So, I wrote being mindful of tools that we use and what companies we're avoiding due to them not aligning with our values. Even if it's non generative AI, we're not okay with it. If it means it gives those companies positive reinforcement to continue using up resources and hurting vulnerable community, the environment, and stealing work from people. Specifically, this example was around like, are we okay with using Copilot even if it's not for generative AI purposes? We're big no on large language models. They're using big data centers that are impacting the environment and communities. It's like Black communities and Indigenous communities. And in general, we're okay with small local models. But again, if that means it's giving those companies examples of positive reinforcement to continue, then we won't use it. If anyone else has really thought much on AI policy things and how to work with that, but I think like even just this 3 bullet points has really helped us think through what tools we use and stuff already. So I think as we start working on more things, I think we'll get more understanding of what that policy will look like and what we need to add to it. I don't know, lots of different learnings of starting a business and doing the right thing and not have it be all about growing and just like living sustainably and just enough for what we want our lives to be and to make enough so that we can live the lives we want. Anyway, I think I am done for today. This was a long recording. Hopefully, I can cut it down so that it's not this long. Thank you so much. Okay, bye.